The Eyes of the White Horse by Ned Dahan, the audiobook, made available on blackboxonlineradio. Chapter 4. It had been a while since Barry had conversed with Martin Gill, the teenage webmaster of TrueCrimeGovernment.com. Barry knew that he would never forget the day when Martin Gill had showed up at his motel room unannounced. He had pranced in with green and black hair and brought a cipher code from the White Horse Killer and asked Barry to go on a serial killer fact-finding mission. The code had actually been created by the Red Horse Killer, a mentally disturbed hotel manager named Robbie from Frederick, Maryland. He had kidnapped Joanna as part of his sick and twisted game, and Barry and Martin had cut through his manipulation. Ultimately, Robbie had committed suicide in front of them. "I'll look into the story," Martin chirped through the speaker of Barry's phone. "Barry, you know that I eat, breathe, and ingest true crime news every single day, even on weekends, but I haven't heard of anything recently that matches this. I mean, it's not uncommon for a male to target a female with strangulation as a method of execution. I mean, it's like it could be a serial killer, or it could have been his first crime. With such little information, it's hard to say. Is there anything else you can tell me about the phone call?" "Yeah, he said something at the end," Barry added. "I don't know what it means. Baruch Allah hey, Baruch Allah vey." "Excuse me?" Martin interjected. "What was that again?" "Baruch Allah hey, Baruch Allah vey," Barry repeated. "I mean, I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I can almost hear the voice if I really concentrate. All I know is that Baroque is like a music genre or something, but that's as far as I got." "No, I know this one." Joanna jumped in next to Barry. She leaned over Barry's shoulder so that she could talk into the speakerphone. "Not Baroque. Baruch. It's not English, it's Hebrew," she announced. "When I was back in Philadelphia, somebody once told me that Baruch Hashem means God bless in Hebrew. Oh, wait. Was it blessed by God or something like that? Shit. Can't fucking remember." "I think you broke a couple commandments," Martin kept chirping through the phone. Joanna's face turned red and she was about to say something, but Barry could see her literally biting her tongue. "Wait a second, Martin. Can we focus on this for a second?" he started. "What if Joanna is right? What if this is Soft Eyes Killer? What if the Soft Eyes Killer is Jewish, or maybe even a speaker of the Hebrew language?" Sure, Martin continued. "Sorry about that, Joanna. Just joshing you. So, Joanna, any idea what Allah hey Allah vey means?" "No," Joanna replied flatly. "I honestly don't know." "This is starting to sound like the Red Horse all over again." Barry shifted gears. "The Red Horse made all of these clues for us to find. He created something that was like a game, and the Soft Eyes Killer is doing something similar. But I think this person wants to get caught." "Why do you think that?" Joanna asked. "Why call me? Why call us at all?" Barry asked back. "The White Horse Killer didn't want to get caught. He wanted to share his message with the WBBR radio station. He wanted publicity. He wanted to leave clues behind that no one would ever solve or figure out. In some ways, the White Horse Killer was smart. This Soft Eyes Killer hasn't shown us that yet. If anything, he is just taking risks that have no reward. I mean, Martin, we asked you once, but please, don't share the story on TrueCrimeGovernment.com. "I already told you I wouldn't," Martin reassured him. "Barry, I report on true crime news. I don't want to provoke someone into actually committing crimes. That's not what I plan to do." "I know, Martin," Barry returned. "I just want to stay out of the media forever, and I don't want any twisted murderer to ever contact me again. Me or Joanna." Joanna dropped a faint smile, which Barry saw out of the corner of his eye. "So let's recap," Martin began. "This person is a male. Perhaps he was disguising his voice on the phone, but he talked in a bizarre, maybe distorted, high-pitched voice. He sounded feminine, but you're sure that he was a male. He claimed that he had killed at least one woman and that he was going to kill again. He said that his method of execution was strangulation using a rope. He said that people thought he was non-threatening, and he might be speaking in English and Hebrew. I mean, that isn't a lot to go on, but if he's anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania, this crime should make the news, unless there is a good reason for it not to be there. I'll scan all the news outlets for updates about a strangulation murder, and please let me know if he contacts you again. Okay, thanks, Martin, Barry replied. I appreciate all of this. I mean, I didn't know who else to call. Bye, Martin, Joanna chirped this time. Goodbye to you both, Martin concluded. The call ended. Barry? Yes, love, Barry said back to her. She gently placed her arms around him and leaned on his shoulder. Please don't let this one take me, she spoke in the gentlest voice possible. Take me like before. Take me like the red horse did. Please don't let him do that. I can't go through that again. I won't, Joe, he answered. I won't. Chapter 5. 3 days had gone by, and Martin had not found anything in the news. He had been scanning Pennsylvania, Maryland, and even New York. Another day had come and gone, and Barry was back in the motel chair, waiting for Joanna to come home from Cheetah Mart. He had a cup of Diet Coke poured, but he wasn't drinking it. Joanna was supposed to be home soon, and she said that she was bringing one of the new pizzas from her store. Barry was staring at the blank wall, and he was wondering why things couldn't stay this way. Life wasn't perfect, but he was almost living the simple life that he had dreamed of when he was a kid. Perhaps he didn't have an apartment or a family like his best friend Warren, but he had a paycheck, and Joanna was bringing him a pizza. What else could anyone want? Barry felt blank on the inside. Why him? 5 years ago he had been an evening watchman, just doing his job outside of a warehouse in Williamsport, Maryland. Now serial killers and copycats were tracking him down from around the eastern seaboard, trying to play games. What was the point? Barry wasn't some mastermind. He wasn't even a star opponent for their games of mental chess. The person whom Barry now thought of as the Soft Eyes Killer was on his mind, but there was something that he could never shake. The White Horse Killer. Barry had seen his face. He had been assaulted by him. The White Horse Killer was not a copycat or even some prankster like Robbie Watterson from the Red Horse debacle. He was a threat that Barry couldn't escape. When would the White Horse Killer return? Barry heard Joanna's tapping at the door. He rose from the chair and opened it for her. She greeted him with a kiss, and she had a wide smile on her face. You should be proud of me, she almost giggled. Oh, Barry remarked. What's up? I carried this whole thing from Cheetah Mart, she began, and I was dying to sit down on the side of the road and start without you. Barry, this might be the biggest act of self-love I have ever displayed. Proud of me, aren't you? She held up the pizza box with an even wider smile. Yes, of course, Barry said flatly. It's pepperoni, she informed him. I hope you don't mind. It's just that these things are new, and I wanted to start with something classic, and I thought that plain cheese was almost too classic, but I needed something, well, other than plain. I mean, oh my God, I just realized we live in a motel room. We don't have any plates, and we haven't had paper plates in like 9 days. Oh well, I guess we will have to eat off toilet tissue. Living the high life, right? I'll get some paper, Barry said to her. Whoa, wait a second, Joanna cut him off. She set down the box on the motel table, then she turned back to face Barry. What's wrong? She asked him. Nothing, he lied. I mean, no, not nothing, it's just... When are we ever going to find peace in the world? Peace in the world? Joanna snickered. That's some intense stuff. Look, Barry, I mean, all of this stuff about all of those sick freaks out there is terrible, but I don't want to think about it 24/7. Someone is out there, and he is going to kill again, Barry reminded her. I don't have any idea how to stop it. How can you not think about it? I don't know, Joanna almost hissed. I mean, Barry, I made this pizza tonight. We now make large pizzas. It's the first time I've ever made a pizza. I wanted to share it with you. I used to always complain about the store, but the last 3 days haven't been so bad. People are talking and laughing a lot. Maybe the summer heat has people in a good mood." Yeah, right," Barry went on. "Hey, look, I didn't mean to be a drag. I want to try your pizza." 1 hour later, Barry and Joe were under the covers in bed, and they were both looking at their phones. Joanna was on Facebook and almost giggling nonstop. Barry was scanning the local news sites once again, trying to find any clues about the Soft Eyes killer. He had to admit, Joanna's pizza was surprisingly delicious for a gas station convenience mart. He hadn't had pepperoni in a long time, and he couldn't help but notice that Joanna had smothered hers with excessive amounts of ranch dressing. It didn't bother him too much. He hoped that she was just fond of her newfound abilities as a pizza maker. Then the motel phone rang again. "Oh, no," Joanna coughed. "Shit." "Hey, hang on, just for a second." Barry urged her to keep quiet. He quickly grabbed the phone. "Hello," he spoke quickly. "Hi, Barry," came the high-pitched voice. "I am back." "What is your name?" "Why spoil the game?" The voice almost sounded like a man who was crying. "There is no game," Barry barked over the phone. "Why spoil the game indeed?" He kept going. "You ache to know my name, so I'll clue you in. 7-6-47-300-8703. 7-6-47-300-8703. 7-6-47-300-8703. Baruch Allahé, Baruch Allahé. The line went dead. "What did he say?" Joanna asked desperately. "Numbers," Barry said calmly. 7-6-47-300-8703. I need to write this down. Next to the TV, at the front of the room, was a pad of the Jonestown Motel stationery. The motel name was written in hunter green. Barry darted across the room and grabbed the white pen with the matching hunter green printing. 7-6-47-300-8703. He repeated. After he wrote them down, he let out a deep breath. "Wait a second," Joanna chimed in once again. I don't know what all of this means, but I remember one thing." "Yeah, I know," Barry agreed. Barry knew what she was going to say next. 8703, she restated. "That was the number of your motel room at the Birch Park back in Williamsport. I remember that because the motel rooms all began with the number 8. They were numbered in that weird way, 8702, 8703, or whatever it was. But I remember that. All the numbers began with 8. "That's right," Barry confirmed. "Why did they do that?" Joanna asked. "That system makes no sense." "I have no idea," Barry responded. "I never asked. I also thought it was weird, but I got used to it. Wait. Joe." Barry's eyes lit up, like the power grid was turning on. "What is it?" she asked. "Do you think this Soft Eyes killer is going to strike in Williamsport?" "I don't know," she answered. "How could we know that?" No, wait a second," Barry went on. "All he said was that these numbers and that Hebrew thing, like Baruch Allahé or whatever it was, this might be the only clue we have. What if the Soft Eyes killer is going to find his next victim at the Birch Bark Motel in Williamsport?" "Take it easy, Barry," Joanna encouraged him. "What do you mean, take it easy?" he shot back. "Look, Barry, love," she started, "you seem way too excited." "Excited?" he almost shouted. "What's that supposed to mean, Joanna? I am not excited. Someone is out there and he claims that he killed one woman and now he's looking for a second victim? The police have not helped us in any of these situations. We have to go to Williamsport. It might be the only way to stop him." Joanna sat down on the edge of the bed, and she looked at the floor. "I'm not going," she muttered. "We don't even have a car." "What? Don't be like that, Joe," Barry shot again. "We will find a way, okay? I've never used the Greyhound bus, but I've heard of a station. I'm gonna go tomorrow morning. I think the bus runs at like 7 a.m. No, Joanna denied. I'm not going. What are you talking about? Barry spat out. I can't do this without you. I have to work tomorrow, Joanna grumbled. Work, Barry argued. Is that what you care about? Working at Cheetah Mart? A woman might be murdered. This is why he called you, Joanna said in an almost lifeless way. What do you mean? Barry slowed down. Joanna was staring at the floor, and her hands were folded in her lap. Barry was standing above her. For a brief moment he lost the intensity that had consumed him after the phone call. He called you because he knows you will play the game, Joanna murmured. This is not a game, Barry argued back. To him it is, Joanna said in a sad way. This is how they get you pulled into these things. People know that you will take the bait. They know that you will walk into their traps. Hey, you better watch what you're saying, Barry scolded her. No, Joanna denied him. I won't. I'm not doing this again, Barry. I was tied up in a chair for 3 days at the Red Horse Inn. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to play their games. Manny, Trista, the Satanic Network, the Red Horse Killer, the White Horse Killer, the Soft Eyes Killer. The list is going on and on. I was wrong to leave you before. I was wrong to leave you when I jumped out the window back in Williamsport. I always wondered what would have happened if I had just stuck to that dream life we created, working at the store, down the street, and just sharing a motel bed. Well, we are living it now, and it's not so bad. In fact, aside from this shit that we keep getting into, things are almost perfect. Well, that's it. Let's stop getting into this shit. Let's call the police now. It's all we can do. It's all we can do now. It's all that we are supposed to do. Joanna stood from the bed, and she gave Barry a gentle hug. Then her grip around him tightened. Please, Barry, Joanna continued. I know that you care. But we are just two ordinary people. You almost lost your job last time. Joanna released him. You think I care about bedsheets and vacuuming at this motel dump? He shouted. That's not important to me. Well, it gives us a home. Joanna raised her voice. It affects me too now, and I don't want to leave here. For the first time in a long time, I'm not a drifter. It feels like I'm doing something right. Please, Barry, let's just call the police and go to sleep. We are not superheroes, or crime fighters, or even detectives. She placed her hands on Barry's shoulders. Let's call them now, she advised. Barry looked into Joanna's eyes, and he felt like he could see fire behind her gentle exterior. I will not let someone die, he refuted. He walked toward the closet and grabbed one of his black overshirts. Then he sat down in the chair and put on his socks and shoes. What are you doing, Barry? Joanna pleaded. I'm going, he tried not to shout. How? She asked. You just said the bus doesn't run until the morning. I'll hitchhike if I have to, Barry shot back. He grabbed his brown wallet from the stand next to the TV and his motel key. As Barry's hand began to turn the brass doorknob, Barry froze like the ice bay of Forest Shell. What is it? Joanna asked. I'm not going, Barry spoke in his own lifeless tone. What changed your mind? You, Joanna. You. Chapter 6. 7 more days had gone by, and it was now into early September. After the phone call with the so-called Soft Eyes Killer, Barry and Joanna had informed the police. The authorities were not very helpful, and one person at the police department had spoken to them in a confrontational way, accusing them of being pranksters. Barry had the nagging feeling that something bad was about to happen, but there was a stronger part of him that had been convinced by Joanna's words. He had remembered the clues of the Red Horse Killer that were meant to put them on a wild goose chase, and the way that they had put an end to it was by not playing the game and not following the instructions of the demented. Barry sat in the motel chair again, waiting for Joanna to come home. She now got rides home from work after dark, so he felt that he didn't have to worry about her walking along the side of the road. This time Barry wasn't thinking about drinking anything out of the motel cup. He wasn't watching TV or even looking at his phone. Instead, he simply sat in the chair and looked at the beige-colored paint on the door, waiting for Joanna. He heard the usual tapping sound, and he let her in. For the last 7 days, Joanna had brought dinner home from Cheetah Mart. This time she greeted him with a kiss and handed him a plastic bag with the red, orange, and black Cheetah Mart logo. "What's this?" Barry asked. "You are going to love me," Joanna informed him. "I already love you, Joe," Barry reminded her. They kissed again. "Even more," Joanna announced. "These are pretzel melts. Someone ordered 3 of them, but it turned out that he didn't have any money on his card, so they ended up being fair game. I mean, I paid for the potato chips, but that's no big deal. One sandwich has beef and the other has chicken, and, I felt sorry for the guy, but he had no money and he just walked out. I gave one to Michaela. You remember her, right? She works the coffee line like the beverage host, and I kept the other 2 for us." "Joanna Skite, you are a star," said Barry. They both sat down at the table. Barry went for the chicken sandwich, which surprised him. Normally he would have preferred beef. In the past, he was addicted to the triple cheeseburgers at Burger World. Barry couldn't get over how bouncy Joanna had been lately. When he had met her 5 years ago, she had been full of energy, but that was a different kind. This was more euphoric and innocent. She had also been playful and light-hearted. Barry could only expect that it was because they were both finally living a normal life. His brief moments of concern faded. Barry began to wonder. An hour after eating, they were nestled in bed together, and the TV was on a news show, but the volume was muted. They often did this to add character to the room. "Joe," Barry called to her. "What is it, love?" "Do you like living in this motel room?" he asked. "Yeah," she responded quickly. "Why?" "It's been a while since you've been here," Barry mentioned. It's good for one person, sort of, but we don't even have a kitchen or a stove." "Whatever," she dismissed. "I make wonderful food at Cheetah Mart, and I'll bring it home for you." She leaned in for a kiss, and he accepted. "What I'm trying to say is, do you think we should get an apartment?" "Oh," she sounded. "I hadn't thought about it. You don't like this place anymore? You're the facilities manager here. They give you this place for free. It's so close to where I work, and why do you want to move?" "Nah, I shouldn't have said anything like that," Barry reverted. "It's just something that came to mind." "Well, it's not a bad idea," said Joanna. "We can think about it later. For now, I want to—" The motel phone rang again. "No, not now," Barry shouted. Of course he didn't know, and he couldn't be sure, but there was only one person who could have been calling. "What?" Barry shouted as he picked up the phone. "Jonestown Motel." The voice spoke in a flat and lifeless way. "What?" Barry said in a different tone. Who is this?" "You know who this is." Barry could almost feel the beating that he took in the parking lot again. He could almost see the image of the man with the short crew cut and the dark-rimmed glasses. This wasn't the soft-eyes killer who had been calling him. This was the White Horse Killer. "What do you want?" Joanna leaned in more closely. "If you go 1 mile east of the Jonestown Motel, you will find the Soft-Eyes Killer, or what is left of him. I have known this person for years. I know what he has said about me. He told you that I was afraid. He told you that I was a coward because I shot my victims. 1 mile east of the Jonestown Motel, down the road, in the ditch. He won't harass you any more, Barry Albert, but I admit that Baruch Allah Hey Baruch Allah Veh was a nice touch." The call ended. "Did you hear all of that?" Barry asked Joanna. "Yes, I think so," she concurred. Was that the real voice of the White Horse Killer?" "Yeah, that was him," Barry confirmed. 1 mile east? He says he killed the Soft-Eyes Killer?" she continued. He says his body is in a ditch. Oh, Barry." "He knew him personally," Barry clarified. "Perhaps the Soft-Eyes Killer was another White Horse copycat. I don't see another possibility. The White Horse Killer also called us, the same way the Soft Eyes did.
He even said Baruch Elohei Baruch Elohei, said Joanna. This has to be real. Were they a team?
I don't think so, Barry returned. I think the Soft Eyes was someone who knew the White Horse's secrets.